Thank you very much for always joining us here on The Link every Wednesday. We don't sleep to make sure that every time you come and watch us on The Link, you get information you can use. Tonight we're talking about money. COVID-19 has hit many of your businesses and you are going to need money. So you're going to go to the banks or things that work like banks, circles and so on. And they can be facilitators, but you can have problems if you don't have your game right. Tonight, my guest is Mr. Dan Biribonwa, who is a credit solutions consultant and a banker for 27 years. Daniel, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam.
Let's start with this issue. Sam, I have an issue. I have business. I want to go to the bank, but sometimes we have common perceptions about these banks that cloud our relationship even before we go. Give us some of those perceptions that could, make our working with banks not as favorable as it ought to be.
Thank you, Sam. The overarching stereotype or assumptions we just attach to banks is the overarching one is that we look at a bank not as an ordinary business like ours. You can actually decide to start a business as a bank, but you chose maybe another field. But a bank is just a business like yours and mine. But most of us look at in extremes of banks. Either the bank is an NGO, a government, or a Shylock waiting to take over your carcass. And I think that is the most overarching if you look at it. Then the rest are detail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I trust the bank? First of all, we go and say, let me just try.
Yes.
Can I trust the bank?
Yeah, you can trust the bank. Actually, that's also another big part. Most of us believe you should have to lie to the bank if the bank is to give you money.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is to give yourself value. Once you give yourself value, the bank will also always give you value. Majority of us go to the bank with this perception. If you don't like the bank, it won't give it to you. The other big thing is that we go thinking about default. Then you just run and say, I have my security. It's worth 100 million. Can I get 80 million out of it? Now that is a wrong way, a wrong end of the starting to do. The best is to understand how banks evaluate you. You are actually overpricing yourself or putting yourself at a disadvantage in costing that credit you are taking.
And we're going to come to that in a moment.
Yes.
So in other words, you're saying, I am going to the bank for money to support my business, but they are also a business.
Yes. Yes.
It's critical to understand that. All right. How do I take care of my interests when dealing with the bank? Because people may think that, can I trust the bank? Going back to the old question I asked. But how do I take care of my interests when dealing with the bank? Now,
just learn from the banks themselves at this point. The banks are some of the is an area actually which is very heavily regulated.
Yes.
Surrounded by so many risks and so many stakeholders, because the money they lend to any one of us is actually not their money. They don't have that money to lend to you. So we get money, someone else's money, lend it to another person. So you have a lot of risk management to do. Now, without boring you with the details of the risk management of the banks, most of us don't look at what risks we are also facing with the bank, because the bank can also expose us to a risk. But we need to take it positively and say, but the bank has also built many, only that in the papers we read about only those who are being advertised for sale.
And that clouds our judgment.
That's a small fraction, maybe less than 1%. But majority of those who have grown from the banks are not advertised in the papers. So majority of us, it's like the death in Mrago. When you hear people dying, you think people go to Mrago to die. But of every one person announced dead, thousands others have been born. The same thing, of one person advertised as a failure, or failing, not a failure, as failing to pay back the bank, they are just a small percentage, 0.05 maybe. And of those who have challenges, others have gone back and worked out solutions. But the majority of us think of a bank with too many emotions. From the one set, you go there with this rosy idea, and you have not managed the risks within that transaction or project, and then at the other end, the other banker is calling you that you have defaulted. Now, it's a very big transition if you didn't talk about security or liquidation or anything. It's a serious transition of having to admit that your ideal has failed. Now you are regarded a defaulter. That's a word anybody never wants to hear.
So Dan, I'm still wondering, how do I take care of my interests?
Taking care of your interests, I said, is to understand how the banks
view me,
evaluate you, and give yourself a value and bargain with that value. For example, the bankers have very different variations, varying from bank to bank and depending on complexity of also the lending. Now, the commonest, probably the oldest, is the canons of good lending, which are in a simple abbreviation or acronym called CAMPARI. CAMPARI is C-A-M-P-A-R-I.
Break that down.
Which stands for, C stands for character.
Okay.
I mean, even yourself, just break the complexity out of it. Even yourself, you know around your people, this one, if I give money, they have good character, they will bring it back. Character put aside.
So I have to have good character.
Good character, as in a good reputation. Have you paid back? Have you always paid back? Have you always been giving bouncing checks? Do you take people's things and you deny? Character, and there are many ways you can get it. We're going to go into that, but you know it's that. A stands for ability to pay. Those are the main two: the goodwill and the ability to pay. So does your business, can your business turn out enough money to pay what you are saying to pay? Because if however good you are, if the business is not going to work out, your goodwill won't just pay.
How does the bank know that I'm able to pay?
These are simple things. You look at number one, the cash flow is the main thing that pays. The loans, not your capital. The daily in, out, going out, you remain with enough cash that will settle the installments of the loan. Okay. Then you look at profit and loss. In the medium term, if you are making a loss, then that capital of yours or the cash flow will eventually turn negative. Then in the long term, the balance sheet, your balance sheet, how does it stand?
What is the balance sheet?
Now the balance sheet is looking at what you own, your own assets in the business. Okay. And the liabilities, what you owe others, the debts you owe me, you owe Sam, you owe the other guys who are trading with you. Okay. So if the liabilities are more than the assets, then obviously your business is going to melt away, as just like snow melts away if you are not.
So balance sheet, cash flow, and there's something else you say, the third thing,
the profit and loss.
Profit and loss.
Yes. Now, it's actually balance sheet, profit and loss, cash flow. You can take it a step further and put it a transaction if the transactions can also secure themselves.
Okay. We are still looking at CAMPARI. So CA.
Now M is margin. How much profit do you make? Because if you are making a big margin, you are likely to grow faster and grow sustainably. Then P is purpose. There are purposes which are simply illegal. Yes, if you borrow and you say I want to go and trade in cannabis, it may be very profitable, but it will not. Or you want to build a bullet factory, that's a reserve of government, so it will not be a worthwhile, a creditworthy proposal. Then you have a amount. Now, if I'm borrowing, sometimes you borrow less thinking you are being less risky. But if you borrow money that is not enough for the purpose for which you are borrowing, then you are actually more risky than the one who has taken the amount, because he's going to finish it and this project will participate in repayment itself.
How do I know that I should borrow? How do I know how much money I should borrow? And help me. I have a project, I want to go to the bank, but how do I know how much I need?
Now this comes
briefly.
Basically, this is going into the nitty-gritty of what you need in the project. And at this point, you also maximize other sources of financing your business, which are not necessarily from the loan. Because
my own money, first of all.
There could be your suppliers who are going to be supplying you free. You could be negotiating days. You are going to get goods now and pay them later. 30 days later. Now, you don't have to borrow all that money from the bank. But whatever you borrow must be enough for what you need to implement. Yes.
So I need to do my homework.
You need your homework.
Have we
Then
finished?
the two last R is for repayment.
Okay.
Now, if I'm a school and you are asking me to pay monthly, you're asking me to fail because I don't get my cash flows on a monthly basis. I get them normally quarterly.
So I should object.
Not object. You go with your proposal. This is how I get the money. There is nobody who has pinning anywhere that an installment must be monthly. But if you don't know what you need, now the banker will read you what is convenient to them.
Okay.
What is less risky for them, and that sometimes what they think is less risky for them turns out risky for them.
So I should know my cash flow and know I can't pay monthly?
Know your cash flow. Yes. Yes, there is one man who asked us for a loan of one installment in a year, only this. I won't go into that right now. But this was a real estate guy who gets rent once a year. He says they can't take it per month. And we had to go down and look for how to bend our own rules to suit his needs.
Because he insisted, he knew what he wanted.
He said, I get rent. It actually comes through the bank here. Once a year, so why should I pay more?
Let's go for the last letter.
The I is insurance. Stands for insurance, but insurance in this case, take it for collateral. Now, insurance or collateral, take it for like this. If you have a car and is in a dangerous mechanical condition, a DMC, and you are saying I'm driving to Guru because it's insured, do you think you'll go far? You might not even go beyond Nakasongo. So collateral, that is the same as collateral. Most of us put too much emphasis on collateral.
I have a land title, I have a building.
Yes, yes. But if your other letters, as we have seen, you have not checked them, then this one will work against you. It's like that car, which is a DMC. You are insisting on driving it to Guru, but it's not roadworthy. So it will just break down in Luero with all your comprehensive insurance.
Okay.
Exactly, that's how you should look at it. So the dictum in credit says that you should never lend someone with security if you can't lend to them without security.
Hey.
So collateral is just insurance, just like you hear insurance.
Okay. You can't believe it that explaining Campari alone has just eaten up our time.
Yes.
Viewers, this should be a conversation for 1 hour. But unfortunately, I'm constrained to these few minutes. Remember what our guest said, Dan. Campari. This is what the banks look at to give you money. But if you do the homework yourself first, you might actually get the money before you go to the bank. There are more chances if you do your homework first. And he said, lastly, collateral is not necessarily what makes you get the money. In fact, if they give you money based on that, you might be in trouble. Can you imagine? That was the link. Thank you for joining us tonight.